Right now, I think we have 14 franchisees that are in our inner circle. And two, the way that our inner circle works, it's not just about revenue. It's about participation. It's about, reviews. It's about being, active in the community and turning back and mentoring others and helping others. So there are several criteria that we have there. And then, we just had 3 or 4 months ago, I removed, I think it was 6 franchisees for not meeting our criteria. And what I realized, and it hurt me to do this, but what I realized is we were putting so much energy in trying to help that bottom 30% that was pulling us away from helping the rest of the company that was,
Welcome to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast, where we talk about all things franchising. Now, here's your host, Dr. John P. Hayes.
I'm John Hayes with another episode of the Franchise Hot Seat, brought to you by the Titus Center for Franchising at Palm Beach Atlantic University. Today's guest is Garr Russell. He's the founder of Fireside RV Rental. And that's a growing franchise concept since 2022, about 70 franchise locations today, expanding across the United States and tapping into the booming outdoor travel and RV lifestyle market. But Garr isn't just building a franchise system, which is something that I like very much. He's doing it as a faith-driven leader, integrating values, purpose, and service into how he works with franchisees and grows the brand. And in our conversation today, we're going to explore not only his franchise opportunity, but how faith influences leadership decisions and how a franchise system is built from the ground up and what it takes to align purpose with performance. Garr, welcome to my program.
Hey, John, thanks for having me on. Excited to talk franchising and faith and all the things with you.
Great. All right, well, let's get started. What inspired you to launch Fireside RV Rental? How did franchising become part of the vision?
Yeah, Fireside RV Rental was, I call a pain to purpose business. Really, I bought my wife an RV for our 10-year wedding anniversary, which this month we're celebrating 20 years.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And she was 7 months pregnant with number 4. We were in Grand Haven, Michigan, in this new camper I just bought her, and she was hot and pregnant and miserable. So she decided she's not camping. She's going home to the AC. And so there I sat with a $30,000 camper and a campfire by myself. And I thought, what in the world am I going to do now? And so I started renting it. And long story short, that's what led us to where we are today.
So you bought this RV, didn't ask your wife if she wanted one, I guess. Just assumed this might be a good idea. She said, no, Garr, not a good idea. But you're stuck with a vehicle and you need to get pleasure out of it or get your money back somehow. So kind of like an Airbnb, I guess, for RVs. Is that how it got started?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we call it real estate. We're in the real estate business.
Okay.
And, I'd already owned some rental properties and we owned some other businesses. And so it was just kind of a natural fit. I threw it up on Craigslist for rent. And literally within a couple hours, I had people reaching out to me wanting to rent my camper. And it went from there.
So in 2022, you decide to franchise. But what were you doing prior to 2022?
So how it kind of progressed was I started, 2016 and started renting my RV. And then I reached out to my best friend, Jeremy. And I said, hey, Jeremy, I'm renting my RV. Do you want me to rent yours for you? He had a 9-to-5, and I had my other entrepreneurial adventures with my teams in place and stuff. So I had a decent amount of time on my hand. And then I reached out to my other buddy, Darren. I said, hey, do you want me to rent your RV for you? And then I reached out to my sister-in-law, Tiffany, and said, hey, do you want me to rent your RV out for you? And she said, no, that's horrible. Why would I let somebody sleep in the bed of my camper? And I thought, all right, well, I like it. Jeremy likes it. Darren likes it. One person doesn't like it. I think we got a business here. And so it started from that. I started going into, the different Facebook groups for people that were doing this, peer-to-peer RV renting. And I met a guy in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Kim, who said, man, Garr, I like what you're doing. Why don't you help me launch a location up here? And so I said, sure, you'll be my guinea pig. We'll launch location number 2. And then from there, it turned into a business in a box. I'm going to teach you how to do it for $995. And then it was $4,995. And then in 2022, really, it was the Lord. It was the Lord that put on my heart, hey, this is a franchise. What you're doing is you're operating a franchise. So you need to go ahead and get yourself legal as a franchise. Yeah. That's when I started that process of getting set up as a franchise.
So apparently you didn't know much about franchising prior to all of this.
No, I didn't know anything about franchising.
For the early 2020 period.
No, I didn't know anything about it. Yeah. I just knew that from my another business that I had owned where I had done like a business in a box type thing, and I've coached and mentored others. I just knew I had something there that was duplicatable, and there was a need in the market, and I wanted to take it and offer it to others. But I honestly didn't know about franchising at all.
Few people do.
Yeah, very true.
Well, were you always entrepreneurial? What was your career like, or did you have a 9-to-5?
Yeah, I always was entrepreneurial. I write about it in my book, My Real Estate Story, how literally in 5th grade, I went to my dad with my first business idea. Hey, Dad, I need $500 so I could go buy a couple lawnmowers for my buddies to push around while I go and, orchestrate things and sign up the accounts. And so, all the way back to 5th grade. And I'm a firm believer, like the scripture says, the gifts and callings of God are without repentance. Some of us are born entrepreneurs, so I've always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah, well, you always, you started out right. You weren't going to do the work. You wanted other people to do the work and pay you what becomes a royalty in franchising. So you had the right idea all along, and eventually God leads you to franchising through your renting your RV. So 2022, you already had then some, we won't call them franchisees, they were maybe distributors or licensees at the time. How many did you have before you said, well, I really need to get a franchise disclosure document and make this a legal enterprise?
I had about 8 locations at the time.
Okay. And were they paying you a royalty, or how did that work?
Yeah, they were. They were paying me a percentage of their revenue, and basically we were their, the training, the coaching, the community, and then we were kind of everything but their boots on the ground. So we handled all their inquiries and booking and billing and stuff like that.
Yeah. And now you've got 70 across the United States. And how has that happened in this period of time? Has it been difficult to find franchisees, or do people approach you all the time yet today? Are you advertising for franchisees, or what are you doing?
Yeah, so we advertise mainly on Facebook. We spend quite a bit of money there. And really what happened was it started with once we became a franchise, I started going on like podcasts and speaking and just going into the peer-to-peer groups for those who are renting their RVs and just saying, hey, you're renting your RV, you could take other people's RVs with yours, rent them out. It could be a business. So just educating, presenting that idea. And then we joined a marketing community in the middle of 2022 that really helped us to learn marketing and funnels and ad spend and how to track and all those kind of things. And then we started marketing on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. And then do people get funny about, like your one sister-in-law said, no, I don't want somebody sleeping in my RV. Is that a problem that pops up in this business, or not an issue?
Yeah, people either love it or they think it's weird. Like, wow, this is great. My RV's sitting here. It's doing nothing. It's depreciating. I have a payment, I have storage, I have insurance, I have all this overhead, and I use it 2 or 3 times a year. So people either think it's brilliant, they've never heard of it, or yeah, they like their RV, they have an emotional connection, right? Like my sister-in-law does, and so to them it makes no sense. But majority of people, they've never heard of it, so it's a completely new idea to them. And then second of all, they love not having to do any of the work, and now they have the potential to earn revenue. They get to depreciate it. They get to write off the overhead.
What if I don't own an RV, but I want to rent other people's RVs? Can I join your network?
Yeah. Several of our franchisees have never had an RV. They've never had experience with RVs, and they've come into the Fireside family. We've got people like that. We have RV dealerships that have joined Fireside, storage facilities, RV repair techs, all around the gamut. Really, it's what we found to be the common thread is somebody who is faith-centered. They're a follower of Jesus, and they want to be an entrepreneur, or they are an entrepreneur. Those are the common core characteristics that our franchisees have in common. So some have never had any experience with RVs.
Mm-hmm. And what does it cost to become a franchisee and succeed in this business?
Our franchise startup fee is $35,000.
Okay. And I don't have to have an RV, so I don't have to go buy that. But I need some money, I would suspect, to advertise to get people to let me rent their RV. And then I need some money to advertise to get the people who want to rent RVs. How's that?
Yeah, John, that's the beauty of this business is all you're doing is you're getting in front of RV owners to present the idea of RV rental management. And usually we do that through Facebook Marketplace. We simply go into Marketplace, we find the units that are desirable to us. We send a message, hey, beautiful unit, too bad you have to sell it, and wait for them to respond. Once they respond, then our franchisees send them a link where they can go on, and there's a webinar of me pitching the whole service to the RV owner. So literally it's just getting in front of RV owners. And then on the other side of it, renters, we're partnered with the platforms. So you know how there's Airbnbs for real estate or Turo for cars. For this industry, there's RV Share, Outdoorsy, RV Easy. And so we actually just partner with them. We let them spend all the ad spend to get us in front of those who want to rent RVs. And RV Share, who's like the Airbnb of this industry, we're their number one partner. So we have preferred rates with them. We have our own account reps. We have a really good relationship with them. So it's super low overhead. And then the cool thing about it too, right? A lot of franchise opportunities, right? It's like, okay, now there's a build out, there's a brick and mortar, there's all this overhead, startup expenses. What we do at Fireside, we just partner with a storage facility. So we just go to the storage facility and we say, hey, this is what we do. We rent out other people's RVs on their behalf. We want to store our fleet at your storage facility. The owners pay for the storage. So we literally have our brick and mortar location that costs us $0, and the RV owners pay for the storage themselves.
So other than the $35,000 to get started, the franchise fee, how much more money will a franchisee need to invest until they start making some money?
Yeah, it's really pretty minimal. We send our franchisees all of their marketing materials, the hats and t-shirts and business cards and all the things that they need for that. We set up and maintain their website for them, their social media for them, their CRM. We do all those things for them. So literally all they're needing to do is maybe some cleaning supplies to clean the RV in between rentals. And then if they decide to get into the other money-making activities of this business, like renting, camping chairs and kitchen kits and linens and stuff like that, they can purchase those kind of items. But outside of that, it's very, very minimal. We do have a couple of our franchisees who are looking for the perfect excuse to go out and buy that, brand new F-250 to tow around the campers, but it's not required by any means. A lot of our franchisees, they're working with firefighters, school bus drivers that are off for the summer. They're finding drivers, cleaners, RV repair techs. So it's just a lot of delegation and orchestration, and there's not a lot needed for the upstart and the ongoing expenses of the franchise.
And in your franchise disclosure document, do you include an item 19?
We do have an item 19, but it's very simple. And we just added this last year. And honestly, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the item 19 because I feel like you could present data any way that you want to. And that's one of the cool things about being upfront about my faith too, is what I tell franchisees when you're doing your research, call other franchises, ask to see their tax returns, ask to see their books, ask their experience. Don't rely so heavily on, when you're investigating these franchises, the item 19, because from what I've found, you could pretty much make data look a specific way to look, attractive. So my item 19 is very, very basic. It's this. It's all of our bookings across all of our locations for the year. So a location who started 2 months ago to someone who's been with me for 8 years, we take all the bookings, thousands and thousands of rentals that we do per year, and we take an average of all those bookings. And then we say, okay, our average rental is 6 nights. Our average rental is $1,641. So based on that, with our royalties and what you split with the owner, here is your average net on rental rate per rental. That's all my item 19 says. Okay. It's that simple.
And so if a franchise prospect says to you, Garr, after 12 months or 18 months, and let's say I'm a good franchisee, I listen to you, I follow through on what you tell me, how much money am I going to be making?
I tell them that you go back to your item 19 to the basic number of average revenue per rental. And then depending on if you're in a year-round location where you're going to have rentals happening, right? There's no winter time, or you're in a seasonal, an RV is going to rent out, an average of 7 to 15 times per season. So again, I like to push them right back to, hey, talk to other franchisees that are in a similar climate to yours and see what they're doing. And I think that's the fairest, truest way for someone
I appreciate that. You get other franchisees, existing franchisees, to validate or not validate your business, including, is Garr a good guy? Does Garr do what he says? Is he there to support you when you have a problem and you call him? These are all important things. It's like when buying anything else. How soon am I going to get my money back? And how soon am I going to make some money? This is what people want to know. And the item 19 is helpful with that, but I agree with you full-heartedly. I always tell people, if you're investigating a franchise opportunity, first of all, make sure it suits your personality. It's the type of business that you want to operate. And secondly, talk to the existing franchisees and ask them. The key question is, knowing what you know today about Garr and Fireside RV Rental? The full name. Would you buy this franchise again? And if 10 out of 10 people say no, or 8 say no, or 7 say no, I would give that, maybe pass on that one and move on to another opportunity.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that's the best way, and that's what we encourage our franchisees in their due diligence, or our potential, our prospects. Call as many as you can, talk to as many as you can. We do a really good job of education. Like, we have over 800 videos on our YouTube channel. So my goal with the prospect is to get them as much information as I can, as quick as I can, to help them make, a decision. And then at the end of it, being that we're a faith-based Christian company, I always pray Philippians 4, 6 through 7, that it's the peace of God that passes understanding that would lead them. Because, entrepreneurship is scary. You can have all the numbers line up and all the data and all the things and take the disc profile and all these things. But I tell them, hey, if you don't have God's peace, don't do it. And now on the opposite side, I tell them, hey, if you have no clue how this is going to work out, but you have God's peace, do it.
Yeah. So, all of that said, give me an idea of, a range of the amount of money that I might make as a franchisee.
So what we say is your average unit, based on our average data, the average travel trailer per rental on nightly rental revenue is going to net $400. So when the travel trailer goes out, you're going to net about $400 on that. That's just on the rental revenue, not on add-ons that you're offering, delivery, pickup, any of that kind of stuff. The drivable RV, where you get behind it, it's got a steering wheel and engine, that's going to do a couple $100 more per rental.
Yeah.
So you take that number and you times it by the size of your fleet, and that's how we tell them to gauge what they're going to make. Go from there. We have locations and they're literally, our goal is to get you to your first 6-figure summer, and we have locations that have done that in their first summer. And really, it's just a direct result of the energy that they put into building their fleet, because that's step number one, right? Get the inventory so that you get the exposure to the consumers to get the rentals, and it goes from there.
What's the size of a typical fleet?
Typical fleet, you're going to want to grow to about 20 units.
Okay.
You grow to about 20 units, you've got a really decent business, and if you're servicing your fleet as well, which we can certify our franchisees as RV techs, we can run them through a program that we're set up to certify them. Then they're adding a whole nother revenue stream. We have franchisees. Most of our franchisees are owner operators, and they love it. They love doing it. They love the joy of taking a camper to a campground and setting it up and watching the kids show up and the family and running in there and picking their beds and all those things.
Yeah.
Or delivering a camper, like in what's called our inner circle group. Once a location gets to 100K, we move them to our inner circle group. We just had a franchisee yesterday who delivered a camper down to the Keys, and now they went and stayed at a campground for a couple of days while they're waiting for that. And so, right, the travel included and having fun like that.
So how big is a territory, and is my territory protected?
The way that we work territories, we've been learning this as we go. It started as 10 miles. Basically, you have a 10-mile territory. And basically what that means is you wouldn't see another fireside within 10 miles of where you're at. That's basically your territory. But what's going to happen is you could have a territory in Florida. You might have somebody in Michigan who wants to bring their RV down to you because they don't want it in the winter. They want you to rent it out for them. Or maybe they winter here. That's completely permissible. You might have a renter who's 50 miles, 100 miles north, and they want to rent your specific unit. That's completely permissible. So what we do is basically a 10-mile territory. And within that 10 miles, we like to see about a 50,000 population. If we don't see that in 10 miles, then we might bump it out a little bit more. But we found is the more territories that we have grouped within 100 miles or so location, the more successful they all are, because, and this is why we call it real estate. People aren't just renting these RVs to go camping. We just did Talladega races 2 weeks ago, and we had 4 locations who had all of their inventory there. A couple months ago, we had Daytona races. We had 4 locations. I'm over here. I was looking at where you're at. I'm actually over here in Okeechobee. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't know that. I'm in West Palm Beach.
Yeah, so I'm over here in Okeechobee.
Yeah.
And so we just did the big Okeechobee Music Festival. And we have a location in West Palm that brought RVs over. And so the more we have grouped together, we found the more exposure we get, and the more of these large venues that we're able to serve.
Yeah. And so if I said that, well, I don't want just 10 miles. I want to buy 3 units. I want to have 30 miles. Can I do that?
You can, but what we found is we want to see somebody get up and running first, and prove that they're capable of managing that, and then go from there.
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge? Let's say, let's begin with you. What's the biggest challenge as a franchisor in the RV rental space?
Biggest challenge as a franchisor in the RV rental space? I mean, in the space, as far as what we're doing, we're really blessed. We don't really have competition. Like, we were the first ones here. And so we're very blessed there. But as a franchisor serving franchisees, the biggest challenge, I would say, is just is helping people with mindset. It would be the biggest challenge, because a lot of people come into Fireside. They've never had a franchise. They've never had anything entrepreneurial, but they love how faith-centered we are. They want to be part of something bigger and something purpose-driven. And then they get in and they realize, man, I'm scared to sell. Man, I don't know how to manage people. Man, I don't know how to manage books. This. And so walking them through that hard process of, and we always say, profits, yeah, we're all about helping our franchisees profit, but we're more intentional about the person that you become in the process. That, to us, is what's more important. We're more excited about watching you grow as a person. watching you overcome limiting beliefs, watching you realize that, man, there's no limit to what I can do if I don't overcome this next hurdle. And so that to us is the biggest challenge. It's the biggest thing that fuels us, is just keeping our franchise. We call ourselves fire starters, keeping our fire starters fired up and excited, and realizing like, no, you're doing something bigger here for a bigger purpose in mind. It's not just about, growing a business to make a bunch of money.
So initial training, how long does that take for a franchise for Fireside?
Our onboarding takes 6 weeks, and we are absolutely phenomenal. That is one of our strengths. Right when I started Fireside, I met with one of the top franchise brokers in the nation, and I just said, what do I have to do to set myself apart and succeed in this? He said, your training, your coaching have to be through the roof. And so we were very, very intentional about our training, our coaching, our community. Like tonight, we have what's called Fireside Chats. We're going to come on. I'm going to do a teaching for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to jump into a Q&A with our franchisees. And then after that, at 9 o'clock, the guys split off, and we're doing a Bible study together. We have a women's book club together and another book club together. We do in-person retreats, and we have open office hours where every day of the week you can see on a calendar, oh, look, Jen from the team is just literally sitting in a Zoom room waiting to answer any and all questions. And you go into our training center and you see like step-by-step videos, PDFs, checklist, quizzes, and you don't understand something, Faith, our AI chatbot, is right there to talk you through and walk you through. And if she can't, it creates a support ticket. And so, yeah, our training and our coaching and our accountability and our mentoring is something that I'm most proud of.
Is it all online, or do you do any in-person training?
All of our training is online, or phone calls. We don't have any in-person training. There's a couple of things when I started Fireside that and I don't want to offend anybody here, but I'm going to say there's a couple of things when we started Fireside that I realized, I'm like, man, the franchising world is, some of the things that's happening in the franchise world seem like that's how the franchise world was set up, but it doesn't need to be that way anymore. So there's a couple of things that, and I get it for some businesses, right? Yeah, you got to go and you got to learn how to operate the equipment and do that kind of in-person stuff. But for what we're doing here, no, it doesn't have to be done that way. So no, we have lots of, videos and with AI and technology, we found that we can accomplish a lot through video, through trainings and teachings and Zoom, stuff like that.
And do you describe this as a part-time franchise?
It can be part-time if somebody wants it to be part-time. We do have criteria. We want to see our franchisees have 10 units by the end of year 1, 15 by the end of year 2, and 20 by the end of year 3. So we do have part-time franchisees where maybe they already have existing businesses and they're plugging this into it, or they have full-time jobs, so they have people that are helping them, so they're doing this part-time. But most of our franchisees, especially the ones that are really doing phenomenal and are crushing it out there, they're doing this full-time with either managing a team or, again, like I said, husband, wife, or family teams that are all doing this as a family business.
Yeah. And is there anyone, if a franchisee is not a Christian or a prospect is not a Christian, or do you not accept them, or do you have non-Christians who are part of your network?
No, we're just very intentional about being upfront with who we are and the common characteristics and passions and purpose that we have. And so we're just very upfront about that in our webinar, in our franchise application. One of the questions is, hey, Garr runs his business based off the Bible. Are you okay with that? And we have people that are in Fireside that I would say aren't Christians. We've had people that have come to Fireside and become Christians, which to me is phenomenal. Great. I actually, in 2022, when I really switched my messaging, when we started franchising and marketing, all my messaging was for, hey, I serve Christian entrepreneurs. And then last year at our retreat in November, which I've never done this before, I felt led to do an altar call. For those of you that aren't Christians, I don't know what that is. It's basically where it's like, hey, I want to invite you. Do you want to receive Jesus? Do you want to, come into the faith and become a Christian? I'd never done that before because I thought, well, why? When I do that, we're a Christian company. And I did that, and 2 people received Jesus. And then that following week at church, we had John Maxwell come speak as a guest. And John Maxwell was talking about how he went from, being a Christian leader to just a leader who is a Christian, and how God has used him to lead many people to Christ. And I thought, well, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, God told me to serve Christian entrepreneurs, but God didn't tell me to not make Christians in the process. So yeah, if somebody wants to join Fireside, they're okay. We just recently had somebody who was like, well, just as long as you know. I said, that's great. Just as long as you know, this is, how we operate. And so, yeah, if somebody wants to join the Fireside community and they're not a Christian, but they're okay with how this business is ran based off the Bible, then come do life with us.
So you mentioned your convention. Is that in person or is that also online?
No, our retreat that we do every year is in person.
Okay.
It's a 5-day event. It's 3 days for all of our franchisees. The 2 days before that is just for our inner circle, for our top performing locations. And the reason why we do that is we love giving our other franchisees goals to aspire to, of wanting to get into the inner circle, wanting to join that next tier of franchisees.
So when we talk about that, where franchisees are, the top franchisees, I've been at this a long time. Every franchisor that I work with has top franchisees, let's say the top 30%, and they've got bottom franchisees, that's the bottom 30%. And then everybody else is in the middle, another 30%. When you look at your 70 franchisees and you think of them as a third, and a third, how many do you see in the top and how many are in the bottom at any time? And it's not going to be exactly a third of 70, but.
Yeah, I'd say, right now I think we have 14 franchisees that are in our inner circle. And two, the way that our inner circle works, it's not just about revenue. It's about participation. It's about, reviews. It's about being, active in the community and turning back and mentoring others and helping others, so there's several criteria that we have there. And then, we just had 3 or 4 months ago, I removed, I think it was 6 franchisees for not meeting our criteria. And what I realized, and it hurt me to do this, but what I realized is we were putting so much energy in trying to help that bottom 30% that was pulling us away from helping the rest of the company that was, and it was but the benefit of that was amazing. Man, it lit a fire under so many, couple people got offended, but most people were like, you know what, Garr, thank you for doing that, because that actually showed me that, Garr, you've given us all the tools, all the training, all the coaching, everything is there. It's on us. And it lit a fire under them to go and grow. And so I would encourage, franchisees listening to this, don't be afraid to hold others accountable, because my big thing, why I'm like, it's fine, we'll just let them float along, was, I don't want to have to report that on my, FDD, these locations that have closed. So I had this kind of like inner struggle of like, trying to keep my audit, my numbers and all that stuff looking a certain way. I'm like, you know what? No, because I know at the end of the day, I'm serving these people well, and I'm not afraid to have them call one of these locations that closed and find out why they closed.
Yeah. How many have you had close since you started franchising?
I'd say probably around 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you made a very good point. The people at the bottom, they suck a lot of energy out of you. At Homevestors, when I was running that company, I noticed that the people at the bottom would call frequently to complain or to ask questions about something that we already trained. And you start getting the idea pretty quickly, these folks are never going to get it. No matter how many times we go out and help them and meet with them, they just don't have the personality for this franchise, which is why it was so important to realize that at We Buy Ugly Houses, if you didn't have D in your personality on a DISC scale, you were probably not going to be successful, or you were not going to be in our top 10% where they were buying 100 or more houses a year. So you must have that. Every franchisor has this. Do you know what personality should someone have on a disc scale to be successful in your business?
Yeah, same as what you said. We found that's the common characteristic, because at the end of the day, we're a service business, and our business is built by managing other people's RVs out. So we have to get in front of other people and present our services, and then we have to serve the renter of the RV. So you've got to have that outgoing, charismatic, extrovert kind of personality, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do the thing as far as talking to people. We had, when I franchised, I sold my original location, was one of the first things I did, to one of my investors who had several RVs in my fleet, and he completely tanked. Like, he literally ran the business into the ground, and I learned quickly because of his personality profile. Yeah. He had all the spreadsheets, all the figures, all the numbers. So to him, on paper, he's like, this business is beautiful. I'll buy it. I'll take it. I'm sold. But then he literally took all of my systems and processes and threw them in the trash and started building from scratch. He was not a people person. No. And so he totally tanked, and we quickly realized, you've got to have certain characteristics.
Yeah. He was a C personality, which is great to be that competent or conscientious personality. But that's typical of them. They're not going to operate the business the way you have shown them how to operate the business. They want to reinvent the wheel, and that's not what franchising is about.
Exactly.
There's a place for the conscientious. They certainly, in some cases, will listen to what you show them, how to operate a business if they believe you. But if they have some doubt, then they're going to scrap that and start all over and reinvent the wheel, as I said. And we don't want to do that in franchising. So you are a faith-driven franchisor, as we've been discussing. What does that mean, though, in practical day-to-day terms?
It means that it's not just about the business. It's about the business of the kingdom. So everything we do is with that in mind, right? The RV owners that we serve, the renters that we serve, it's knowing that a great way to explain that would be a franchise that we have in North Carolina, Zach. We actually have 4 or 5 pastors that are also franchisees of ours. And Zach is a beautiful testimony of that. Zach knew he wanted to be an entrepreneur, and he stepped into it scared as could be. And Zach will tell you, he says, man, I feel like I'm doing more ministry now as a fire starter than I am pastoring my church. Because all the interactions that he has with RV owners and renters. So it's always keeping that kingdom perspective in mind. And then it's always knowing that, we have our FDD, and we have our 160-page manual and all this, but we run our business based off the Bible. So, right, we have a disagreement or argument with somebody, we go to that person first and we talk to them. We don't go file a complaint with corporate and say, hey, this guy over here is doing this, that, right? We handle things biblically. We honor each other. We encourage each other. We pray for each other. We care about each other's lives, not just, each other's businesses. And so it's literally, it's kind of like the scripture says, it's in him that we live and breathe and have our being. It's like, to me, we don't see a way to separate religion from business, because if you're a follower of Jesus, if you're a disciple, your business is the kingdom. So how can you separate the two?
Yeah. Do you use franchise brokers or franchise consultants, as some prefer, to sell your franchises?
So this is another one of those areas where we're a little bit different. We sold one franchise through a broker when we first started, and when I had to cut that commission check, I thought, oh, ouch.
You didn't like that.
I did not like that. That is a lot of money. And this is the thing about it, too. When I became a franchise, that was just part of the process that they walked me through.
Yeah.
Okay, we're putting this together. Okay, and these are the Franchise Brokers Association, and this is this, and these are all these things. And now this is what you do, and you're gonna offer this extra incentive to help them get the first couple sold, so they know who you are. And it even affected the pricing that I created for my franchise startup fee. So when we started, it was $50,000. Well, once I had to cut a check for $25,000 to a franchise broker, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. I feel like it's not fair to my franchisor, to my franchisee, that half of the money they just paid just went to pay a commission, and I want to help them, quickly become profitable as quick as they can. And so what I decided to do is I joined a marketing community, and I literally paid $25,000 to be in this community and basically just master marketing, master the art of creating an offer, a hook, a webinar, a funnel, an email drip campaign, a follow-up sequence, understanding how to overcome people's limiting beliefs and overcome external and internal objections and walk them through the sales process and identity transformation of what would happen. And all these things. I published a book as part of a credibility piece, launched my YouTube channel, started putting multiple videos out per day. And so today, the way that we operate is 95% of our franchises come through Facebook ads, and it costs us about $3,500 to sell a franchise.
Interesting. Yeah, you've done some things really well, Garr. I'm impressed by that. A lot of franchisors talk about building culture. They're usually Christian franchisors that do that, not totally, but how do you intentionally build a values-based culture across your network?
It's connecting together, right? Like we're doing tonight on Fireside Chats. It's coming on and having a teaching and praying for each other and investing in each other's lives. Because how can you create a culture of caring if you don't know anything about any of your other fire starters, right? It's sharing each other's stories. Man, our last retreat in November, Ashley from Maryland came up and shared her testimony, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Her and her husband signed up to start a fireside franchise, and they had a newborn and a toddler. Shortly after they signed up, he got sick, ended up in the hospital. A couple months later, he passed away. And so here's young Ashley with a baby and a toddler. And her husband literally said on his deathbed, "Honey, God brought us to Fireside to give you a community for when I pass." Wow. I mean, just for her to share that story at that retreat and people to feel the emotion of that, of this is a community of people doing life together. This isn't just we're doing business together. That's how you create a culture, by knowing each other. By one of the main ways that people connect with me at Fireside and end up wanting to join the community is I share all my screw ups. I share how I went bankrupt in 2008. I share how during COVID I ended up drinking a whole bunch and losing multiple seven figures of real estate. I share this, I share that. I share the mistakes that I made, but I also share how God used those mistakes to make me the man that I am today. And people resonate with that. People connect with that, because that's one of the big things in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs don't share enough of there's a thing in entrepreneurship, right, where it's like we're all got to pretend like we have it together almost. And I think it's such a similar to the church, right? We all walk into church like, "Hey, I'm blessed and happy, brother. How are you?" We all pretend. We put these masks on. And so when you can be real and raw and vulnerable with people, you'll create a community and a culture like no other.
Yeah, I agree. How about technology? How important is that at Fireside? And do I have to be a technology buff in order to be successful at this?
Well, with the advancements in AI recently, you don't have to know anything about technology. You just have to not be scared of it. And like I say, or like we say, do what Garr says. Just do what I tell you and use it. So yeah, technology is a huge piece. We have a full-time person on our staff. All he does is software systems, AI. We're very heavy into that because automation, integration, getting information back and forth with our franchisees, our customers, our RV owners as quick as we can to us, that's huge. And even as AI continues to develop and we see all these people losing their jobs in these different arenas, for our industry, that's just going to explode for us. Leisure is just going to go through the roof. So we're going to continue to explode with people saying, oh my gosh, I have all this time on my hands now. I'm going to take that RV trip I always wanted to take. Yeah. So yeah, we use technology heavy to help them experience RVing, and then also our franchisees.
So when you mention people who think about, well, I'm going to take that RV trip I've always wanted to take, where do people want to take an RV trip? Which might mean that, that's where you want to be based as a franchisee, because it's going to be a very popular market. Florida, for a good example, but there are others as well. Well, what are maybe the top 2 or 3 places where that's where the RV people that's where they want to go with an RV?
Yeah, Florida for sure. California is number 1. Florida's number 2. Arizona, and then any of your big touristy national parks areas. And then outside of that, this is what I love about this business, and this is why we call it real estate. We have people renting RVs for music festivals, equestrian events. We work with a lot of insurance companies. So, right, natural disaster, fire, flood, something like that. Insurance companies are renting RVs to put them on the side of the house for temporary housing. So the uses and applications is just, it's everywhere. And then, yeah, somebody getting in an RV too to just leave, Michigan to come down to Florida or go to California. Yeah. And so that's growing exponentially. We've got a lot of people coming over from, Europe on their vacations, and they'll fly in to Las Vegas, get in an RV, travel all around, drop it off in Phoenix, and then fly back out. That's a fun thing for our franchisees that allow one-way rentals, because that renter will literally pay our franchisee to fly to the location of the RV, pick it up, and bring it back. So we have Dathan in Huntsville, Alabama. One of his renters, there's this really high-end Class A that he just loves. He literally just rented it last summer. Dathan drove it from Huntsville, Alabama, all the way up to Michigan to a music festival. The guy paid him to stay in Michigan for a week and vacation while he went to this festival, and then Dathan got back in the RV and drove it back to Alabama.
Well, that's great. So what's your vision for Fireside RV rental? I talked to you in, let's say, 5 years from now. How big is the network, and what's going on? What's different? What's great about it?
The vision is to have, I'd say, about 20% of our franchisees into step 5 of our program, which we call the generational wealth piece, where we're introducing real estate. So, right, we talk about partnering with storage facilities, grouping your RVs together. The goal is for them to eventually own the RV storage facility. Okay. So we want them to own the storage facility. We want the storage facility to have a dump station, a propane station, a repair bays, and consignment sales. So where it's a white glove RV storage facility that does all the things. And the cool thing about this, we had just acquired one of our competitors that literally, they were closing the doors. They couldn't do it. And they owned about 10 storage facilities. And I got on the phone with this gentleman. He says, I tell you what, Garr, you guys are doing the hardest part of the business. And so I'm excited about that for our franchisees, because we teach them the hardest part, the rentals, the maintenance, all that stuff. So once it gets to step 5, now we're getting into the generational piece, the easy piece, where now we're attaching real estate, and there's something that is there for their kids or their grandkids. So that's the vision here in the next 5 years, is to have about 20% of our locations operating in that space now, the generational wealth portion.
That's great. Well, Garr, I really appreciated this time. I think you've given a lot of great information to people. And God bless you and your franchise network, and I hope things continue to go well.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast with Dr. John P. Hayes. Tune in next time for more conversation around all things franchising.